1, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kelly, would you call the roll?
Michael Pezito?
Here.
James Shiloh?
Here.
Christian Koppel?
Here.
Beth Marie Evans?
Here.
Alex Britos?
Here.
Eric Jones?
Present.
Alan Zanter?
Present.
The quorum is present.
Good evening. As a reminder, our board governs by policy, which is aligned with state statute. It's essential that our practices reflect these policies, ensuring transparency, accountability, and effective governance. Only in a duly convened public meeting with the quorum present can the board govern as a whole. Where our practices and policies do not meet the current needs of the district, it's our responsibility to amend those policies where legally allowable to better serve our community and align with our strategic plan. Our mission is to empower all learners to succeed in their world. Our vision is to provide an ideal learning experience where students and staff are engaged and want to come back the next day. Our board policies and actions should reflect that mission and vision. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda item minutes of regular meeting January 28th, 2025, minutes of executive session January 28th, 2025, bills payable, financial reports, personnel reports, SED and Lucine T. Smith annual report, and disposal of equipment?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and second. Is there any discussion?
Just going forward, could we make these reports visible publicly? Would there be a desire from the board to do that? I think we've talked about it in the past, but haven't made a decision. I don't know if we want to talk about that now or wait to add it to another agenda item. But
Any discussion on this?
if no one else wants to, that's fine too.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. I mean, SCP and Lucina T. Smith annual report, I don't know. But
Typically, I mean, I guess
anything else is-
other districts that I've
Yeah.
every other district I've seen that posts their packets publicly, they have most of the consent public, even the personnel and.
He's talking about mentions of student
Yeah.
names though.
Well, that would
Specifically
be,
worried about that, but-
yes, anything that has to do with, early graduation or that touches students directly would be not, but everything else,
Executive session minutes?
no.
No.
So anything that's basically allowed to be released would be released.
Any other discussion? So it sounds like just from this group, I'm not, again, on this particular motion, there's no other discussion. There's some general consensus related to maybe an amend, do you want to do an amended motion, or are you just saying like just in general to, you're thinking this could be a future discussion item, or, I mean, we certainly don't need a motion or a second to change the visibility of documents. But seeing that we're discussing these items and their visibility, it's not going to influence the motion outcome. Does
No.
anyone else want to speak about it?
Well, I don't have a problem with anything that doesn't violate any confidentiality being public.
I would just jump in for just a second. Executive session, I think that's a no-brainer. We don't release those. Obviously, personnel report, I would also recommend, just because it relates to personnel, we don't release that till after the board's approved it. But I think everything else, if the board wanted to post all of that stuff publicly before it's actually approved and official. And if, I've seen like previous board minutes, some boards don't like to approve until they're official. But that's, the board does that different.
I'm fine with it not being published until after the meeting. I honestly have never gone back to look at if this stuff is publicly available or not. I mean, I know it can be FOIA'd, but.
Kelly makes it all public after the meeting, so like tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay, so it's already public anyway.
It will be after the meeting, so
Right.
it's, everything on the consent agenda is not publicly visible until the board votes on it, and then the following morning, Kelly makes it all public. It's all
Okay, so-
public after it's approved.
So for clarity, you're asking for public publication of it prior to the meeting.
So we can get, if there's any comment pertinent to it, they know what they're.
And my only hesitancy is we've had comments in the past where there were errors or omissions, and so I don't want to put information out there that we haven't approved that may not be correct either.
I guess honestly, we do publish everything
Yeah,
afterwards.
everything's public, after
Okay.
it's approved.
I'm sorry, I thought that was my question.
Yeah.
I thought it wasn't. I wasn't using it right. Okay, I apologize.
And you guys
Yeah.
will see it differently because when
Okay.
you're logged in as a board member.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what you see in your view may be different, but yeah, everything's under consent agenda is made public after it's
Okay.
approved it the next day.
Okay. Except for the executive session minutes and stuff.
Correct.
I would-
Executive session goes confidential.
Okay.
Yeah, but even personnel
Okay.
report is released the next day
Okay.
after it's been approved.
That makes sense.
That's a
Okay.
good question.
Sure, yeah, I get it. Just
Puts
looking
it out
for
there.
clarity, yeah.
Yeah. Any other discussion on this? No? Okay. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Santu,
Yes.
Shiloh,
Yes.
Poppel,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Grados,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
DeVito,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the NIA consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the NIA consent agenda, NIA treasurer's reports, NIA bills payable, NIA personnel report, NIA contract and vendor agreement report, and NIA annual financial report?
So moved. Second.
Been seconded. Any discussion? And for the general audience purpose, these are also publicly available after
After, yeah.
too, so.
Are they? We don't post them because it's in,
Yes,
because we're just approving it for, on behalf of NIA.
Oh, okay, so they are available from the NIA.
Yeah. I can double check that with John Malone, the director.
Any other discussion? Okay, Kelly, would you call the roll?
Shiloh,
Yes.
Poppel,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Grados,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Santu,
Yes.
DeVito,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, next item on the agenda, audience to visitors. Let's see here. So, if you wish to address the board this evening, please raise your hand at this time. When called upon, kindly state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please refrain from mentioning specific names during your remarks. And in accordance with the Illinois Open Meetings Act, the board cannot engage in deliberative discussion or take immediate action on items not listed on the agenda. However, we want to assure you that your comments are important to us and will be taken into consideration. Thanks for your understanding. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address the board at this time? All right. The next item on the agenda is superintendent reports.
So in the board packet, you'll see the building and departmental updates. I'm not gonna go through those, but if you have any questions, I'd be glad to do my best to answer them. Lots of good stuff going on throughout the district.
I thought the HR report was really well put together. I'd assume you made it.
Yep.
Nice job.
Thank you.
That stood out. Stuff I didn't know and was happy to learn about. So, thanks.
And going to the career fairs, are you trying to fill positions faster, or what's, I mean, I think it's great you're doing it, just trying to understand.
Just
that.
get our name out too. We're not necessarily ready to move on many. There's a couple that are open still from last year, especially related services. So those we're kind of looking for right now, but other ones, just kind of getting our name out there. So
Sure.
we used to do it. We kind of moved away from that, but their career fairs are kind of up and coming again, or getting back in the groove. So we're going to this one and then ISU next week. So, yep.
Anything else on superintendent's report? Okay. Next item on the agenda is board reports. Anything on this?
Interesting for you.
Yeah, just the FOIAs and the board district or non-district committee reports.
We did have a CDC, or CAC, Citizens Advisory Committee meeting. And we had a few people show up. It was a really good meeting, though. We had a lot of good discussion. probably what is most pertinent to the board, a lot of it has already been in the weekly update, but as far as the building opening, that the Sycamore Food Pantry is up and running at the new building. And we talked a little bit about the at-large referendum coming up in the next election. We talked a little bit about that, but probably what is most pertinent for the other board members to know is there was concern about the sale of the new building because it's in a residential neighborhood, so there was concern from the citizens, about who we might sell it to. That she wanted us to keep it, the person that brought it up, wanted us to keep in mind that it's a residential neighborhood. So I'm hoping the retail option purchases the building, because that would probably be better for the neighborhood, but let's hope we get somebody good to buy the building. That was pretty much it.
Okay. Thanks, Bill.
We had a superintendent evaluation ad hoc committee meeting. Many of you were a participant, which was great. Thank you for doing that. By the next board meeting, the expectation, the hope is that we will have a suggestion for the board to vote upon and hopefully approve moving forward for the superintendent evaluation process, the protocol, and the instrument itself. Really constructive meeting.
Planning and zoning met earlier this month. There was one workshop item related to an expansion of the Stonegate subdivision, which is up next to Fire Station number 2 off of Plank Road. Yasi, I think is the way the last name is pronounced. The one who had originally developed there still has several lots between where those townhomes end and where the Lincolnshire facility is, and so they're looking to build out some 2-bedroom townhomes there with like a $300,000 starting price. So this was just an initial concept. They'll be coming back with more finalized plans later on for approval. There was also discussion on amending Article 6.8 signs of the Sycamore Unified Development Ordinance, basically looking to define how murals would be painted in the downtown district specifically. That's the only place that they would be allowed, but I guess there's a lot of interest in putting murals up after some of the successful murals in the DeKalb area. So there were discussions on the amendments needed to make that workable, and that was about it.
Those condos, 55 and up, or?
No.
Okay. It's the same as the Meyer ones, basically.
I'm not familiar personally with the Meyer one, so I can't-
Okay.
Same builder.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the floor plan and really have.
Okay.
Yeah, they have not built this design in Illinois. They have built it in Iowa.
Okay. Well, it's not even more dense.
But I think they were all 2-car garage, all 2-bedroom units.
So there's a potential student impact.
Potentially down, I don't remember how many units it was, 40?
I don't remember. Yeah, it wasn't overly significant.
Yeah.
Okay. 40 buildings or 40?
No.
At most. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can pull it up, sorry. I didn't-
No, that's fine. I'm just curious if it's a huge development or what.
No, if you drive by, it's just the extension.
It's
of the road.
7 buildings,
Oh,
22
oh,
units
Oh,
total.
yeah, okay.
It almost looks like they're missing from the property currently because they never.
Correct,
finished
yeah,
it.
the road just kind of
Yeah.
stops, so this would finish off that Clayton Circle.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then there'd be a park also put in right next to Lincolnshire off of Plank Road there. Like a 3-acre
Green space.
green space.
Well, I was hard at work too. If you look at page 10 of your agenda, there's an asterisk there that Steve and Kelly put that now says policy items should be aligned with the board's goals and district budget relevant connections noted as applicable. So that was the product of our last conversation where we wanted to see the agenda more closely mapped to goals. Kind of saying it tongue in cheek because it's just right now an asterisk that's italicized, but ideally, in agendas to come, we will see that tie more closely to those two things. So, again, as a product of our last conversation related to the agenda. So,
SEF met last night. Grant night, 4 grants presented, all 4 approved. And trivia night's Friday. They have 90 people signed up, so that's a big turnout. There's 70-some tickets left available on the website, so buy early, buy often, or buy late coming up.
Buy at the door? or-
Yeah. Highly encouraged to get those ahead of time. Yes, yeah, because it could potentially sell, so, or reach max capacity, I should say.
The North Grove School Association met, this is 4 months out, but we're having our summer open house on June 28th and 29th. If you are interested in coming, I can give you the times. It's the the one-room schoolhouse, so we technically take ownership in it, and we allow this organization to run it and keep it up and do all these wonderful things to make sure it's historically preserved. So I think it's a fun opportunity to take part.
Yeah, I would like to. I haven't been there for a long time, since my son was about 8 years old.
Let's set
But
up
I've
time.
been wanting to get back over there and see that little school. It's really cool that they've maintained it all these years.
And they've done a lot of really nice things with it. There's some good displays, so it'd be
Oh,
really
okay.
good to get up there.
28 and 20.
Yes.
Ellen, did you guys approve the minutes at that meeting? Is that where we landed on that?
We did approve the minutes.
Okay.
It was for the for the.
For the,
Yes.
okay. And so then, because I see the minutes under here too, and so for the policy committee, Alex, are you guys comfortable then approving those minutes at that policy committee meeting?
Sure.
The next one, okay.
The policy committee did meet. I have a written report. I suppose to sake of time, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but I don't, unless if you'd like me to go through this report, I could. But I
Is it separate from the
No.
agenda items? Or?
No, it's 602 and then the second attachment. So if anyone has questions about it, I'm happy to answer them. Or if you prefer me to read through it, I'd be happy to, but it gets kind of lengthy.
Do you want to talk about the process in which we intend to review the policy report? That might be important for those who.
Oh yeah, I did include that. Sure, let me get that pulled up. I want to make sure I get it. Is this what you, like the overview of what we do and sort of a?
Just a general review.
Okay.
We're going to take a certain amount of time or.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Quarterly basis
misunderstood what you
review.
wanted. Oh, that, yeah, we're planning on meeting on a quarterly basis, which is typically the speed in which the press issues are released. And at each of those quarterly meetings, we'd like to review 15 policies. So that would get us through the entire policy manual in 3 years is the cadence we agreed upon. And, you know, that's about it. So if the press issue includes 15, we would review all of them, and that would meet our quarterly quota. But if it doesn't, we pull some additional policies to get up to 15. So we're sure to get through the whole manual within 3 years.
That's awesome. Really
That's our
ambitious.
plan.
And part of the tracking process that was put together, right, we're going to compare against the standard suggested press and what our text is, so we understand where we have customization.
I love that.
in perpetuity.
And I'll track it too.
What are
I've
you
got
gonna use to do that?
a big spreadsheet.
Yeah, that sounds like that would probably make it. Is that something that would be available to the whole board, or is that gonna be just at the policy committee level?
Would the whole board want that?
Is it, well, I'm just thinking like maybe it could find its, like a home in the board tool document. Or do you think that's too zoomed in?
It'd be amended quarterly, so.
Yeah, if you, sure. I'd be happy to share it.
Yeah, I'll leave it to your discretion. was
I
just
don't
curious.
care. Would the board want to see it? If one person wants to see it, then yeah, let's add it, so.
Sure.
Okay, there we go, we'll add it then.
All right, nice. Anything else on this board reports? Okay. Next item on the agenda, old business. 701, approval of press policy revisions, second reading. Is there a motion to approve the updated policy revisions shown on 701.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Is there I think there's a little blurb up there, right, which basically just covers, Press 116 and several changes to Title IX and some that then flip back and ultimately the consensus we land on, so.
Do you have any comments? I can make some.
This one is tricky because it was released in August and included Title IX updates, then Title IX got reversed. Those updates got reversed, so it's a little tricky, but what you see before you is everything, we removed the Title IX stuff, but kept in things that weren't related to Title IX in this update, so, in this second reading, so it makes it fun.
The reason, and as Steve mentioned, the reason it's been so long, I think our first reading was way back in October, is because of the Title IX fluctuations with the new presidency. We held off until, because there's some uncertainty, and that uncertainty turned out to be founded. Title IX reverted to what it was before the changes in the fall, so we're just back to where we were in the fall, essentially. So we made changes, then we undid the changes, and we're just accepting that, essentially.
Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's approved. Next item on the agenda, 702, approval of board review policy revisions, second reading. And then these, Alex, you want to explain what these are? Just a little
Sure.
first?
These we saw back in December, so they were from a more recent policy committee meeting. And these pulled just a few policies that the committee and other board members identified as something to look into, make some tweaks because they were either out of date or there could be some improvements. We did a lot of streamlining too, as you can see. There's a lot of deletions and then corrections. I wouldn't say there's any substantial changes though, but if anyone has questions, I'm sure Steve or I would be happy to answer them.
Is there a motion to approve these?
So moved.
Second. Cup.
Any discussion?
Second.
This is the key changes that we talked about.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Next item on the agenda, approval of board governance review next steps. So with the product of the workshop that the board underwent for proper board governance, we got some really nice directives after what was just a real brief 4-hour workshop. So just really buzzed through that. PowerPoint's up there, so perfect, connecting district goals to action items and discussion items on board meeting agendas. Told you guys about that asterisk. That's nice. Discussing and clarifying our district goals and considering participating in the goal setting workshop. I know we have a workshop on the docket for the near future for goal setting. So we're talking about doing a workshop for that. So did we set a date on that, Steve?
No, I don't think so. We talked about April, May, somewhere around there, but I don't think we ever set a date.
We didn't set a date? Okay. Can we do a survey on dates then? Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll send out a survey for some dates on that. Discussing the creation of a district dashboard, which would be something after the goal setting, and then discussing and approving board protocols and norms, which is further on the agenda. So the recommended action from IASB was to formally approve those initiatives, which a lot of them we've already done, but some are in progress. So is there a motion to approve the board governance review next steps?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
What's the evaluation process? Do they come here? Or do they come here to evaluate if we're following is this a certificate?
No, this is
Okay.
just, this was just a recommendation.
Okay.
Part of the workshop. So,
Okay.
us approving it just as a formal acknowledgement.
That we're in receipt of that
Yeah.
recommendation. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Any other discussion? Okay. Right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so it is approved. On to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of the board policy workshop next steps. So as if one workshop wasn't enough, we did another workshop, kept that close to 3 hours, but got a lot done. Working hard in January. So those next steps, you guys saw as key points noted as an attachment. Is there a motion to approve the next steps from the board policy workshop?
So moved, Jones?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion related to them? They're a little more lengthy and detailed, but I guess just giving a high level, it was essentially deliberation on if not to do the customization, what we were gonna do with the Press Plus subscription, the monitoring work, and the board's responsibility for monitoring, which came up in one of the board report comments. So to me, it seems like we've essentially completed all of those tasks because we made a decision on the policy manual customization. We got an update in the board report that we were going to do a quarterly review of policy for our monitoring, and we have a firm understanding of what our responsibility will be by virtue of that. So, any other discussion? So, some good takeaways. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee update, which, as it stands right now, I'll turn it over to Steve if there's any update on it. I know we were working on it. It's in progress.
We were hoping to get an update. I did have a conversation with one of the attorneys from Robin Schwartz, Loris and ours, who's outstanding. But because she's outstanding, she is in high demand. So have not had a chance to connect with her to get feedback from her. There was some preliminary maybe thought about keeping the Behavioral Interventions Committee separate from the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee, but she wanted to do some research on that first. So just waiting to hear back from Laura to get some feedback from her. So hoping to have an update for the board in March. I will let you know as soon as I hear back from her and what the feedback is, and we can discuss it in March.
So with that update, is there any motion that we want to make on this? Seeing no motion, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of Board of Education norms, second reading. A lot of work went into this. Before we get into too much discussion, I'll just solicit, is there a motion to approve these amended norms?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Eric, from a discussion standpoint, you had a pretty integral part in the crafting of this. Do you have any comments you want to make on it?
I don't think so. We discussed this at the last meeting as far as just trying to establish a document somewhere so that we don't have any unwritten norms that board members, new or present, are expected to commit themselves to. So by formalizing it here, at least it's public, at least it's something that we can refer back to in our day-to-day activities. I don't think that there's anything in here that would be a surprise to anybody. We didn't make any substantive changes after the feedback at the last meeting. I know there's some more, there are some empty appendices on there, appendices, that we plan to add to at some point to address some of the questions that were brought up during the last meeting, specifically what does that progressive response document look like if you do have a board member or situation where these norms aren't being followed, what actions, minimal though they may be, that the board can take that we're going to formalize in there. We'd also like to provide some references to basic parliamentary procedures as a reference document for people to use during meetings. But happy to entertain any questions if anybody has any on the items that are listed in there.
The plan is just to stick this in the handbook, right?
I believe so.
Is it Appendix D? I think there's already C, so it's supposed to be D.
Yeah.
Oh, in the handbook?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So then us having reference, their appendix in the appendix.
Well, it's a sub-appendix, then.
So.
Or an appendage, I don't know how it works.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But it is a living document, and hopefully if we find something in here that causes consternation, we can address it as a board and update it as needed, but hopefully it sets a good baseline protocol.
How do we edit it? It was just, you just mentioned that. Do we need to make a motion in the future to edit it, or is it just a?
I think that's probably the cleanest.
So, yeah, and I think hosting a motion that's recorded that we made the change, while the handbook isn't binding, or even really referenced in policy at any point, it's just a tool, and I think when we do make changes to the tool, it's probably a good idea to motion it. Probably should put that in the handbook.
Just a tool, right there.
Yeah.
Very self-referential.
So a board member would ask to add it to the agenda, and there is a discussion on whatever topic there may be. I think it looks great. I don't have any
Yeah.
additions right now, but just.
Which, like,
trying
to
understand.
demonstrate that, like, the appendix A references a document that doesn't exist. So it's kind of, like, because we don't have a progressive response document developed yet, so if there's interest now from the board, like, you know, a future agenda item can make its way, spelled out a couple of ways, but can make its way to, you know, a board agenda, and then we'd make an amendment, so.
Yeah, it looks great. Nice work. That's the hard work.
Thank you. Okay, so then, is there a motion to approve the Board of Education norms on second reading?
I think we have the motion.
Oh, we did, we had a motion, we had a second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Okay. That is everything in old business, so now on to new business. We have approval of the fiscal year 24 audit policy. The recommended action is to approve the fiscal year 24 audit as presented. There's a lot of information here that we'll go over. Is there a motion to approve the audit as presented?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, so for discussion, does anyone, how should, what information?
Talk about.
Yeah, so, just in review, this was our second year with our new auditors. Everything went great this year. We really enjoyed working with them. They're very thorough in their, auditing process, which we appreciate. They work very well with my staff, who takes on a majority of this, information gathering that they need. So I tried to get them to come tonight, but they didn't want to come, but thank you to my staff for doing that. And so I'm pleased to let you guys know that we actually had a larger surplus than we had anticipated for our operating funds, which are our education fund, O&M fund, transportation, and our working cash fund. So those make up our operating budget. So we had projected a $45,000 surplus, and it came in a little bit better at $84,000 surplus for 24. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have in the 136-page document, that being the capper.
There was talk of doing a workshop in March. I think we did set a date,
Mhm.
right? And we were gonna do like more of a deep dive on district finances. Policy 220 stipulates that the board approve the audit annually. And while approving it is a requirement, going into and understanding the sort of what happened piece, I think will be really beneficial in the workshop, because this will come up in that. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I really look forward to that workshop. I think it could be a nice opportunity, Nicole, for us to really kind of understand. I read through a lot of it, and there's a lot of reading to do, but not all of it, but a good portion of it. Just directionally, it looks like we're moving in some really positive directions. It'd be nice to better understand some of those. There's some changes, coming in, just statutes and things. It'd be a nice conversation to have.
When is the workshop? Has a date been set?
March 13th.
March 13th,
6
okay.
o'clock. Auditors will be there for a portion of that, not the whole thing.
We'll
That's
be signing these copies too, so, right? You can get a signed copy.
for an extra cost, yeah. Yeah. So they'll be there to talk a little bit about that. I've never done this before, but I know Nicole's done this kind of school finance 101. So just kind of an overview of how school finance works, kind of a board workshop, but IASB won't be there. Present some information, but then a chance to ask questions. Board meetings like this aren't always the best opportunity for discussion, but there'll be opportunity to do that. But it's in the dates listed in the weekly update, March 13th.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I noticed there was something in, at that NIU in Rockford too. What exactly is that about? Do you know?
I think that's the ISB,
Divisional meeting.
yeah, divisional meeting.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to make that one, but, I just was wondering if it's really something that would be beneficial to try to get to.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay.
Any other comments on the audit?
The only thing I'd add, or,
Oh, you started.
the only thing I was gonna add is, Nicole, if you could extend your thanks to the team. I know how thorough and difficult and how much work being audited can be, so we appreciate that very much. Even though it's part of the job, it's above and beyond, it's a lot of work.
I guess I have more specific questions, but I think those will be addressed later, so I'm not really worried.
And I think too, just to the public, approving the audit is a lot like approving, it seems like a receipt of something. And then us getting into more detail about it can happen at the workshop, but approving or not approving it doesn't change the outcome of the receipt of something, so. Is there, all in favor of approving the audit?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, audit is approved. All right, next item, new business, first reading, so no motion solicited here. Board review of policy revisions. I'm gonna hand that over to the policy committee folks. If there's any comments on that, just like high level. I saw very detailed meeting notes. Looks like a lot came from that, so.
First, I did have a question about the audit. Really simple one. First of all, nice job. The variance from what we expected our surplus to what we ended up at estimated clearly very well, less than 1%. So that's good. I'm just, who actually creates the audit report itself? Is that the Lauterbach, and they just take our data and aggregate it into that report, or you guys make that long report?
Some of it, but most of it's myself.
Oh, okay. Just curious. All right, that's all.
It's okay.
Oh.
I was gonna squirt you with my Robert's Rules water bottle, but.
So yeah, I guess, is there anything you'd like more information on? I broke down policy by policy what changes we recommended, and then I guess the only update is 6:30 and 6:50. Do we want to keep early childhood in 6:30? Because they recommended not 7:50, but what about 6:30? Because it has the same early childhood reference.
So this is the first reading. Do we want to talk about something that we can consider at the second reading?
Well,
Is that the suggestion?
yeah, should we amend it?
My personal opinion is it should stay consistent the way it's referenced throughout the document. We just approved policy changes that refer to our district as a pre-K through 12, so could we just use the pre-K designation here for consistency?
Because I didn't because their email, the email from the attorney seemed to only focus in on 7:50, shouldn't have reference early childhood.
Yeah, I didn't have notes about 6:30 or 6:50, so I apologize for that. I think Alan's idea is a good one. Proven on first reading, I can ask those questions of the
Okay.
attorney, sorry that I missed that. And then incorporate anything that we need to prior to the board hearing it on second reading in March.
Yeah. Well, I think the only thing is, I think we want to approve it on first reading because ISB needs this by March.
Yeah, but they just need the second reading, the final version in March.
In March, not by March 1st.
Correct.
Okay, so our reading would fall at an okay timeline?
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, we should, and I just caught that too, right now, or Alan pointed it out, sort of, so that's something for us to look into. But besides determining if we wanna stick with early childhood or kindergarten, we got some advice on that. Haven't been any changes since since the report. I don't know. But if anyone has questions on any of the copies, happy to answer.
I liked how much lines we had. We made it a lot shorter, so that's great.
So are we waiting for the proposed language for 750? Because I don't see it presented there.
Well, that's the next round, but this
Oh.
policy sort of touches to.
So we may have to go back to 6, the one that we just.
Well, isn't 630 both in the 117 update and this?
Right now, I was just looking at this this current document here in 802.
Well, I'm talking about
Which has-
630 specifically. We changed we changed kindergarten to early childhood. But in press 117, we had another policy, 750, and the attorneys recommended not changing it, leaving it as kindergarten. So now I'm questioning, should we undo our change essentially and leave it as kindergarten in 630 as well?
I think the attorneys would agree with that.
Okay. So then I would motion to approve the policies as written with the exception of reverting sentence number 1 back to kindergarten instead of early childhood.
So you made a motion. I'm not going to restate it because it was really long, but you all just heard it. Is there a second to Alex's motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I guess I'd be curious from legal just what the purpose of 630 is, because 630 is here to say these are the grade levels we teach or host at the district, and that the superintendent annually presents to us the plan for organizing those levels and assigning them to school facilities, which it seems like would be equally applicable to our early childhood program, then why wouldn't we reference it here?
It's a good question. When I asked them about 750 specifically, they recommended leaving the policies alone, not only 750, but that other policies that referenced. So, but I didn't ask about 630 and 650 specifically. So, we've got time to do that in between tonight and second reading in March.
So we do want a second reading? Maybe, I thought the recommendation was first reading.
On 750, we don't need to do anything because there's no recommended changes, but on the rest of these in 8.02, all policies need a second reading for final approval.
Okay.
Let's do that.
We approve it now.
What says approval on first reading is the recommended action.
But they're not final until they're approved in second reading.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it meant before we call the second reading.
No, sorry.
Okay. I'll withdraw my motion then. It's not needed.
Yeah.
And,
We're not,
and I just caught this, Kelly reminded me, on 8.02, there's not recommended approval for first reading. The board reviews it on first reading. It's approved on second reading, so I apologize that I misspoke. So for 8.02 and 8.03, policy revisions are presented to the board for consideration, but they don't necessarily have to be formally approved. They do need to be
Okay.
formally approved on second reading in March.
so essentially the PowerPoint approval should be reviewed.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Apologize for that.
No worries, it's just, I wanna make sure I'm doing it right.
Do you want to still withdraw your motion?
Yes,
So
because
we need-
we don't need a motion.
Is
We
there
don't need
unanimous consent to approve the withdrawal of the motion? Does everybody agree?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, the motion is withdrawn. Is there any other motion on this item? Okey-doke. Move on to the next item. We have Press 117 policy revisions, first reading. Okay, a lot here.
This is a long one.
Yeah, so again, before I solicit any motion on this, and I don't know that we want to even make a motion on this, I'll defer to the policy committee to just make a brief summary of what we've got going on
Sure.
here.
So here we have Press 117, which was actually released back out in October, but due to other policy committee business, we didn't get to it till February. But we reviewed the changes recommended, and then we tried to highlight, as I sort of mentioned earlier, what changes are local to this specific board and this district, and what changes were sort of mandated by either state or federal law. That's that portion. So that covers the Press 117 review. We also just reaffirmed that we're not going to go forward with the press policy customization. Therefore, the administrative procedures review would be best had after the entire policy manual is reviewed in 3 years. So that would be deferred for a few years. That was the gist of it. Does anyone have questions about these policies? Or anything on 803?
I just want to, again, applaud the policy committee's work on this. I know this is a lot of work, so thank you guys for putting this together. Really looks good.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comment on this? Any motions?
So I just want to be 100% clear. This one also, we do not need to approve tonight. We're good in March.
Right.
I don't want ISB to get mad at me for delaying their process. Okay. We're good.
Stuff. Well, then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, 8.04, board governance recognition discussion. I'm not going to solicit a motion here. I'm just going to give you guys a sales pitch. We talked about this lightly before, doing this kind of on behalf of IASB. So the Illinois Association of School Boards has I will call it a challenge that they impose on school boards to be recognized as exemplary in their governance. And that challenge requires that the board adhere to their best practices, which they outline. It's essentially a running 2-year objective where you look back over a 2-year window and you go, okay, did we hit these points? And then we fill out this survey, or I would fill out, or whoever the board president is would fill out the survey attesting to it. Potentially 2 years from now, could be as soon as 1 year from now, if we thought that last year's would satisfy said requirements. But I think that employing this as a sort of goal 2 years from now would be a really, really good move for our board. And the neat thing is, we don't have to change the path that we're currently on, because we're already administering, we've exceeded the expectation for workshops. We've aligned already our policy, and we've been doing a ton of really good work on maintenance of the policy. We're working on the goal setting piece and budget setting. But there is additional information in the PDF or attachment here of the slide that basically just talks about what the program recognizes. And then if you go to IASB's website and you type it in, you can actually see like what the submission of the form requires as evidence to be put in, and then the time delay that that you're expected to have done those things over that period of time is. Is there further interest from the board in formally going through that recognition? And again, I'm not looking for any like hard and fast direction, but would you like me to bring more information to the board about what all that looks like? Like, would that be time well spent?
Yeah, I think so.
What's the benefit of it?
I think the big piece is that we are making a commitment as a board to align with IASB best practices. And we formalize that commitment by, I think what that could look like is a resolution that our board would adopt. Like, that to me seems like a few board meetings from now outcome of, we as a board adopt said resolution to, apply for this recognition in this year. And then, well beyond any of our time on the board, we, like our resolution, our 2030 pledge, we're pledging to our community and our stakeholders that we're going to uphold we'll say 8% of school districts standard of governance here in Sycamore. So.
Yeah, it's less of a pat on the back and it's more of a commitment by the board to meet these thresholds.
It's a self-imposed accountability
Yeah, I like it for that reason.
system.
Is there any cost?
No.
Okay. And sure.
I mean,
understand.
time.
Well, no,
The cost
any
is time.
financial cost that
Yeah.
Nicole would have to cut someone a check for is what I'm talking about. Okay.
We get put on PowerPoint at the annual meeting, and you get the good feeling of knowing that you've done all those things. So, okay, so what I'll do then is I'll produce a little more, I'll get some more information, I'll send you guys a copy of like what that looks like, and then I can draft up, using IASB's tools, a resolution for consideration in May that this board can look at for potential approval. So, is that okay?
Yes.
Is May okay, or do we want to do it sooner than that? I don't want to rush anybody.
If you're doing the work, you're the one being rushed.
May works for you, may works for me.
Well, it'll be this board. It may not be me, but it may be this board. So that's okay. So May it is. All right. We don't need a motion because we're not deliberating. Really, we're just having some discussion on this. So. Okay. So then the next item on the agenda that we do need a motion on is the approval of the resolution authorizing the public sale of 245 West Exchange Street. That resolution, which I'm not going to read out loud, briefly, Steve, do you want to give just like a quick what exactly this does and doesn't do?
Yep, good question. So if the board approves the resolution, what this does is allow the district to publish advertisements seeking bids for the property, the current administration building at 245 West Exchange. Approving this does not approve the sale. We're not there yet. This just gives us the authority to publish bids, to seek bids. There's a minimum bid required for $975,000. That's based on an appraisal that was done for the school district. I will tell you it's a little higher than I expected it to be, but that's based on, we looked through the appraisal, looked at comparables. If we receive a minimum bid meeting that requirement, then the board has the opportunity to consider that bid and then selling it. If the board doesn't get that bid, we could open up privately, but we'd still have to find somebody who's willing to pay $975,000. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
You're still willing to pay $975,000. What's likely to happen if we don't get a minimum bid is that we would come back to you and ask you to approve another resolution to publish bids for the sale without a minimum bid. And then we can either take a bid that we think is appropriate, or we can sell it privately. So multiple steps in the process. All we're asking the board to do tonight is authorize us to publish advertisements seeking bids for the building at 245 West Exchange.
Sorry. Just, there appears to be a couple typographical errors I just caught. The resolution and the notice to sale, the parcel identification number, or property identification number, I'm not sure. The 252s repeated.
Our attorneys prepared the
Yeah,
resolution, so.
Yeah, I just caught it. I didn't
Yeah.
want to but just something to note. I will talk about that.
We can take care of it.
Okay, that's all. I mean, so would we like, should the motion, Michael, contain language that would correct that? Or does it not need to be that?
Well, I would rather see us approve this as presented, and then if anything, make a second motion.
Okay.
If we need to. That way.
I know that NIU just had this issue and they didn't put it in motion, but if we don't want to do that, that's fine.
I'll solicit a motion from the board if you guys have a proposed motion on this that deviates from the approval. Say your piece now.
Well, you would start with a motion to approve, then you do a motion to amend the notice of sale. And agree to,
And
or
the
vote on that
resolution.
motion, and then your original motion would move to motion as amended, right?
Well, we haven't posted a motion.
I know, I'm just trying to lay out the.
Yeah, well, we don't
The
need to do an
course.
amended motion though, if we're, like, we could just, like Alex was saying, make a motion to say, we approve this subject to the correct PIN number
Mhm.
being identified. And that way, if it is correct, we
Yeah,
leave it, and if
that's-
it's not,
That's what
it's
I'm
open
getting
ended.
at.
I would make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the public sale of 245 West Exchange Street with an amended notice of sale to include the proper or appropriate PIN number.
We have a motion?
And resolution to sell property.
That wasn't in the resolution.
Yeah, so there's.
I'll second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion on this?
Oh, there it is, it's right in one section.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
two,
incorrect.
the attorney's got it, 103.
Any other discussion? Eric, would you?
I'm sorry, I did have a discussion item. As far as that process of public notice and the private sale, then below appraisal, I assume that that's a process that's just kind of laid out in statute. That's no question.
Yep.
The building is currently zoned school. You know, it's zoned.
Well, I
Tax
don't
exempt.
know the zoning on top of my head.
That we have.
It's currently tax exempt.
It's tax exempt, but how would they determine if it's zoned commercial or residential? Because I imagine that would have a pretty significant impact on the value of that parcel.
Yeah, they were.
So there's no,
Yeah.
there's no.
Whatever they do, they'd have to get approval from the city to make it.
Okay.
We
So
would
we
not
can't-
take a part of that.
So we would sell, but how would a buyer know if it's, what the zoning is, what?
It's their due
For
diligence.
them to figure out.
That'll come up in the process of purchasing
Okay.
property.
It's
That'll
not,
be
we
disclosed.
don't have a responsibility to that.
No, it'll be disclosed.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Eric, would you mind restating your motion?
Yeah, let me go back to the, sorry, looking at the property records. So there's a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the public sale of 245 West Exchange Street with the resolution to sell property and notice of sale of property amended to include the appropriate PIN numbers for that parcel.
You got it.
Kelly, is that what you
Second.
do too? You'll be watching, okay.
Days.
All right.
Oh, that's-
Motion second, we discussed it. Why don't we take a roll call, if that's all right with you, Kelly?
Poppel,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Grados,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Santu,
Yes.
Shiloh,
Yes.
DeVito,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thanks, Kelly. All right. Let's see, that is everything under new business. Is there a motion for the Board of Education to adjourn to executive session for the consideration of matters related to the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Kelly, will you call the roll?
Evans,
Yes.
Grados,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Santu,
Yes.
Shiloh,
Yes.
Poppel,
Yes.
DeVito,
Yes.
motion carried.
We're on. All right. Let me know when we're good. Clear? Okay. We're back in open session. Is there a motion to approve the, I'm sorry, let me pull up the resolution. Is there a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the contract non-renewal and non-reemployment of full-time, non-tenured administrator Kathleen Newhouse?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Kelly, would you call the roll?
Jones,
Yes.
Santu,
Yes.
Shiloh,
Yes.
Koppel,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Grados,
Yes.
DeVito,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, next item on the agenda is approval of the administrator employment contracts for 25-26. The recommended action is to approve the administrator employment contracts for 2025-2026 as presented. Is there a motion to approve the administrator employment contracts for 2025-2026 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Kelly, would you call the roll?
Santu,
Yes.
Shiloh,
Yes.
Koppel,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Grados,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
DeVito,
Yes.
motion carried.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the Assistant Superintendent for Business Services employment contract. The recommended action is to approve the Assistant Superintendent for Business Services employment contract as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved. Jones?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Kelly, would you call the roll?
Shiloh,
Yes.
Koppel,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Grados,
I'm sorry. you
Grados?
talked- Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Santu,
Yes.
DeVito,
Yes.
motion carried.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources and Educational Programs employment contract. The recommended action is to approve the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources and Educational Programs as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Kelly, would you call the roll?
Koppel,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Grados,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Santu,
Yes.
Shiloh,
Yes.
DeVito,
Yes.
motion carried.
We've reached the end of the agenda. This meeting stands adjourned.
I have a letter from the orchestra.